welcome. You're listening to The Lie, Lama podcast. I'm Gunjan.
Rajiv.
Rajiv, recently I came across this ad. It was talking about promotions, and they said that Kiran got this promotion. People were saying, oh, yes, Kiran works late night with boss. They're working on weekends together. We always see Kiran with senior leadership.
All the rumor
Of
mill.
course, yeah, she'll get the promotion. And when the gender was revealed, Kiran was not a girl. Kiran was a boy.
Then the
And
narrative changed.
narrative change, well deserved. Yes, this person is so hardworking, very good analytical skills. Then everything shifted from biases to, well deserved.
It is still bias,
It is still
different
bias,
kind of bias. Yeah.
different kind of bias. And what I really liked about this ad was that it was not just talking about gender bias. It was also talking about confirmation bias. People were spreading rumors or
Stereotyping.
gossiping. They were stereotyping. It was in-group bias. They were creating a halo effect. It was also attribution bias. And you have worked in industry for a very long time. How do you take biases?
Biases are, part of life. So, but this is a very good, I think, the ad, I'll have to watch it. But this actually typifies or exemplifies typical biases that we would see. And it is not just about gender. Typically we would see in the industry, or we still see, there's age-related bias. There is, racial bias. There is educational bias. So I remember that I was in Bangalore at Intel at that time, and one of my peer, we were talking about whether we want to hire from tier one, elite colleges, tier two, tier three, and all that stuff. So, and this person was very, very, I would say, like anxious and concerned that her son is not getting into IIT. Typical ambitions, right, in Asian families. And
Okay, it's not
so,
just Asian. Okay, all right.
yeah, yeah, yeah. In Western families, like they talk about, but they don't get so anxious about the, what college or school their kid will go to. They do get anxious about their, how will they live their life and what kind of person will they be. But education in terms of degrees, is a totally different ball game altogether, with Asian societies. So I asked this person that, hey, if you stand up and look around, not everybody is from IIT, but everybody is doing the best they do.
Right.
And long term, you will grow to your level of capability. Like Peter Drucker said, every person rises to their level of incompetence. So what that means is that, rise to a level beyond which you become incompetent, no matter how good you are or successful you are at the level below it. So the ad actually, what you mentioned, if we start talking about biases, so one, from my perspective, it was definitely two, one was gender bias and stereotyping. So when everybody assumed that the new joinee Kiran was a female, then everybody had a different narrative in terms of, I'm sure, sexual favors were traded and all the other nonsense that people assume. And then the moment they came to know that, oh, no, it's a man, then a different kind of stereotyping and bias came in, that obviously the person is hardworking and all that. So the main thing that you have to understand is that we can never get rid of our biases. The only thing is that we need to be aware of them and make sure that we proactively manage the bias.
Right. So awareness and making conscious decision is something that you're recommending.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah,
And
when I used to tell my team managers that, or HR people, whoever was part of our recruitment, I would say, just share the resume without sharing educational qualification. Now, I fall in the trap all the time. The first thing I would see, oh, the person is from, ABC college, and suddenly I would classify that or categorize that person, in a particular bucket. So that is a bias. You would see, a person shabbily dressed and walking in for the interview. And I've seen people literally, during COVID times, I've seen people literally smoking during the, interview, Zoom call. Now, I'm talking about 2022 or 21, whatever that, year was. Worldwide, there is, this thing bias against smoking. So how do you react? Because the biases are so strong, you would see a person smoking, the first question would be, no, I don't want this person in the team. But
Yeah,
on the other
maybe I'll
hand,
be
if
like,
you,
what is he so stressed about that it's an interview call and still he has that urge of smoking? Maybe
yeah,
I'll
yeah,
have that kind
yeah,
of
but
concern. Yeah.
yeah, but the thing is that, are you hiring the person for their skills and their, collaboration and, the things related to work, or are you hiring them for their personal habits?
No, but attitude
So,
matters, Rajiv.
but
I
what
will,
is there in attitude if you're smoking? But I agree that, on one hand, I'm not saying that that was okay, but
right.
I'm saying that how biases can kick in, how stereotypes kick in, that the first reaction, what is your first reaction when you see a particular situation or a person? That is the bias. When you rationalize it and you justify it, then obviously you are becoming conscious and aware of the bias and addressing it. It's not that you have to always be so conscious and so level-headed that, or what they call as or I call it that the least common denominator, that everything goes.
Stupidity.
Yes. Rude behavior, so there are things that obviously, you expect that a person, like the example I gave, the
And
person, you rightfully said that the person, whatever it is, person could have had a cigarette before the interview and not could abstain from smoking for 45 minutes for the interview. I agree with that. And
and
that's why,
coming to resume filtering out and leaving the colleges and everything, people think that AI is coming, and with intervention of AI, these biases will go away. However,
no,
there was
I disagree with that.
yes, there was a research that in one of a big tech company, AI was shortlisting the resume, and the sample data was
Yes,
mostly male practitioners,
yes,
which is
yes,
why they were not able to hire as many females as they could have hired. And when they found out that with the deep dive, and then why the ratio is
yep,
going so
yep.
bad, they realized that because everything was given to AI,
Yeah,
this
I agree.
catastrophe
I agree.
happened.
AI is there for, if you, I have a YouTube channel where I post my educational videos.
Right.
So, and
Yeah.
free can. And I'll post a link in our notes also. So
Please.
in there, I talk about AI bias and how, why AI, we can never assume that AI will not be biased, because you have to understand that. But this is a separate topic altogether, but I want to close it that, because AI is trained on the data humans produce and we as humans are biased. So there is no way AI will not be biased. So, but the question becomes that, in a workplace, in our daily settings, in our daily, dealing with people, how do we become conscious and aware of the biases that each of us have, and how do we consciously preempt them?
And I think one thing that AI can never replace, maybe I should never say never, but there are certain things that depends on instincts or of the person. You want to work with that person, you don't want to work with that person, you want that person in your team. If AI is deciding that for me, maybe I'll miss that part, because
Right.
at this stage, I think it's more of a smelling power that you get, and the strong intuitions that you get just by talking to the person or just by asking one simple question. Tell me about yourself. It's a very
Yeah.
heavy duty question, and the reply tells all. But yes,
Yeah,
it's
yeah. So,
not just
I think that's a separate topic. AI is such a
yes, a
separate
topic
topic
for
because,
different day.
I can tell you that AI will be better at identifying these
AI will be
biases that
better
we
than
have.
my intuitions.
Yes,
Okay, I don't
one
want
day.
to live that long to see responding better to my intuitions. But Rajiv, coming to the scripts as well, when we talk about biases or favorism or that halo effect and everything, we we've always, again, it just depends how you are telling that story.
Mm.
That Dronacharya, our very favorite guru
Yeah.
of all the times, Dronacharya, he asked his students that they have to hit eye of the bird. And
Mm.
then someone
Yeah.
was saying that I can see sky and I can see tree and I can see the bird. And then I can see tree and I can see bird and then the eye. And then Arjun was the one who said that I can see only eye. And you can put this answer in any way. Reason I'm saying this, I was telling this story to my son, and then he said, shouldn't you be aware of your surroundings? How the story was narrated, it was narrated like a focus, that not focus, lakshya, like, you should always,
Goal.
yes,
Goal.
bullseye.
Yes. Yeah.
So that's how this story was narrated. But if Arjun would have said something else, then also Guru Dronacharya would have said that, yes, this is exactly what you want. You should have
No,
the,
not necessarily. I don't know.
I don't
Because
know.
again,
Yes.
yeah. So I think this is more related to focus versus awareness rather than bias.
No, no, no. What Dronacharya was like, as soon as Arjun came with the answer, he
Ah,
stopped everything, which was a
yeah. So
clear
yes.
bias. It's not Arjun's story, but this is
Oh, the
Dronacharya's story.
bias Dronacharya had towards Arjun
Right.
so that actually, you see, that Mahabharata is full of that. If I personally think that the narrative has been so strong that today, even today, if you ask anybody, and this is a very good example about biases. If you ask anybody, everybody assumes and talks positive about the Pandavas versus the Kauravas. The Kauravas are assumed to be evil and Pandavas are assumed to be good. But if you read Mahabharata very objectively, like, without your biases and what they think, Pandavas were crooks. They won the war with all deceit, cheating, everything. A lot of the things that you see, why things happened the way they happened, they were no less than, Kauravas. And even if you look at the post-war dialogue that happens in Mahabharata, even Krishna tells them that, hey, don't be so rejoiceful, because if it were not for treachery and deceit and all, you would have never won the war. It was the Kauravas who abided by the rules of the war throughout, and Pandavas, they flouted and disobeyed, and there are multiple instances. Now the question is, but still, as of today, why do we assume the Pandavas were the victims and innocent, and the Kauravas were the
Right.
right? So
Here,
this is
here
very
I want to
bias
take a pause.
exemplified.
Yes, here I want to take a pause and reflect and give you a different perspective altogether. Mahabharat, the chapter didn't start from Mahabharat. The
Yeah,
chapter
yeah.
start when Bhij Pitama took the oath.
Oath. Yes.
Right, right.
Yeah.
And from then they started building the narrative that
Yeah,
Kauravas
yeah.
are bad. Dhritarashtra was the greedy one.
Yeah,
And,
exactly. Narrative.
yes.
Yeah.
So they started setting the narrative that during war, whatever they did seemed to be
Yeah.
fair.
Yes.
So it's not
That
that
is
they
why
have
they say
just given
all
the
is fair
story
in
of
life.
war. They have
I know.
really,
I know.
really crafted it so meticulously. And again, you can make anybody hero, anybody hero.
Yes.
I met an anthropologist somewhere around 20 years ago, and as like we used to go to temple every Tuesday, and then he told me that, Gunjan, beyond Garhwal, there is one area that if you take name of Hanuman, people might kill you. And you can actually see that there is one mountain missing from that place. That when that Sanjeevani booty was required, he took the whole mountain because he really did not know that, which
He was clueless.
exactly. And nobody tells us the repercussions that happens when you play with the nature.
Yeah.
We talk about bravery and we talk about he saved Lakshman and then he was the hero, ultimate hero. But then nobody tells us the story unless until you are really digging deeper. You're really getting lucky enough to meet such people who tell you these stories. But again, I did not have any source or data. Was it a urban legend or was it actually true? I've never seen that place as well. So I really don't know if it was true or not. But anybody can sow any kind of seed in your head, and it all depends on.
Yes, I agree. And that's, you see, that's where we fall. Let's talk about, how do the biases, especially social biases
Yes,
and
please.
individual biases, right? So how do they form? They form because of narratives. And narratives are mostly written by the winners. So if you look at
And who
Ramayana
wants to,
or
who wants to
anything,
listen to a,
World War One, any narrative that we are forming our biases with have been written by the winners. So the moment you understand that you, whatever you are reading, whatever you're listening, has been authored, curated, like somebody has put some thoughts around. It's not like a blank history being recorded by a camera with no opinion of itself. These are people who are capturing thoughts, images, whatever they heard, and transposing that into some narrative. So the moment you understand that the bias will always be there, and mostly because the winners write the narrative, then you will question a lot of your, these biases that we grow up with, or in our daily life. Even today, if you today you pick up a magazine or a news, a channel or a book, that actually is formation of biases, part of all those biases.
yeah, Forbes you see someone in Forbes under 30. Oh yeah, you get that title in 30 lakh rupees. So you don't even believe such things.
No, you see, nobody has enough time to actually verify everything, right? So this is where, I think in one of the episodes we talked about that. Let's say if I make a statement, that, hey, leadership is this. Nobody will pay attention. No, I'm nobody. But now, if exactly the same statement is made by, let's say, Bill Gates, they'll be like everybody. The statement has not changed. It is who has said that statement is changing.
Exactly.
So that is bias. That is exactly, so what we associate with is that if somebody, is who is saying it, what versus what is being said, right? So if today, a politician is, caught taking bribe, everybody assumes that, yeah, they're crooks. So now the thing is, not every politician is a crook. And there are layers and layers of crookedness, that even common people, even you, everybody would have. So we will never call ourselves a crook because, we took 5 rupees or 10 rupees or $10, whatever. So whether you
Not just
steal one
giving,
penny,
even
whether you steal 1 penny or, 100 crores, so stealing.
right.
But then we start quantifying it and justifying it. So what I'm saying is that, the biases, I don't think that we will ever get rid of. The only thing we can do is, like all the other discussions we have been having, and I'm sure we will continue to have, the intent of this podcast and everything is to bring these to surface so that we are aware that, hey, I may have this bias, I may have this, bad habit in me, I may have this anger in me, I may have this, whatever XYZ things in me. So how do we be aware of it? How do we proactively manage it so that we live a, fruitful life?
And how does biases restrict growth of, how does it psychologically, mentally impact us and impact our growth in corporate world?
What's your opinion?
I mean, I really do not have any opinion right now.
But do you think that, biases do stop your growth?
Yes, they do. Difficult situation, Rajiv. I don't want people to think I'm biased.
But you are.
I recently finished one book which was talking about leadership and how, in particular situation, people demonstrated leadership skills because it will cost lives if they don't make those decisions in a spur of moment. I read the whole book and I was wondering, they couldn't find a single women leader. And this book is all about leadership in Army, Navy, Air Force.
Different situation. Okay.
Yes. Army, Navy, Air Force, and how in submarine or on land or in air, these decisions were made and how it impacted us. And I paused and I was thinking, why and how come? And I have this real story. One of my friend's aunt, her daughter was 17 days old. 17 days. And Operation Vijay happened. She left her daughter and she went for Operation Vijay. 40 days is a time given by
A medical this
experts,
thing, yeah.
by gynaes, by everyone that you cannot, even elderly people
Yeah,
say,
because of infection and a lot of other issues.
right,
Yes,
right.
yeah.
Your body is not prepared before 40
Yeah.
days to even move out of room. And I understand that it's short commission service. After 5 years, you have to look for another job, but they must be doing something. How come
Yeah, that's so,
not?
yeah, exactly. So
And
that
it's
that
a
is a
recent book. It's a recent book. It had example of October 2023. This is just 2024 going on. Book
so
had
the
example of
question. So
October.
this is so you answered your own question, right? So now think about that all the deserving women leaders did not get an opportunity to be part of that book because whoever the author was or were, I don't know, whether it's a single author, were so biased only towards men. So see, the thing is that this is the biases limit us all the time, both from the people who are decision makers and also from you as a person. Right? So, for example, in corporate, we talk about glass ceiling. So,
Right.
glass ceiling, is for who have not heard the term is an invisible ceiling, which means that you cannot grow beyond that. When I was in US, long ago, not like in my early days in US, I would very often hear that, hey, you're a non-white, non-this thing, so you will not be able to grow beyond a particular level you have to be a male white guy to grow beyond this thing. So you would say, hey, the best I can grow is up to this level because I hit the glass ceiling. Now, for me as an individual, this bias, even this bias, or recognizing that this bias exists in the system, limits my growth because now I'm so demotivated. Hey, I'm already hitting that glass ceiling, and also gives me I personally think it also gives you an excuse not to do what is necessary to achieve the next level, role, or whatever. So it
I
plays both ways.
Yes, I agree, and I'll tell you these biases happens from very childhood. And I was talking to my son about this, that Nani is more biased towards Mamu. She loves Mamu more than she loves me. He's a boy. And that was my thing. He was a boy. He was like, okay, Mama, tell me, who's the elder kid? I was like, Mamu is the elder one. Okay, so he has taken that point.
Uh,
Agree. Who used to get 100% in maths? Mom. I never scored 100 in maths. Never in my life. Okay, all right. And who used to come in top 5 kids?
uh,
Mamu. So you
so
do get
all the
inclined that, and he was saying you do get inclined towards a kid who is more intelligent, who listens to you, who is fulfilling your dreams, and don't bring this gender card. That's what he told me. That don't bring this gender card. There were much more reasons than Nani liking
yes,
Mamu more
yeah. So
than
that's
you.
exactly, that actually is exactly the example that bias, because you thought that there is a bias, it limited your growth because, you could have demonstrated many things that your brother cannot, right? So you may be very good at many other things. And that happens in every family, even two boys, two
Yes, yes.
brothers,
I
two
was
sisters,
good
and
at
everything,
sports, but
right?
I was always compared with the studies side.
Yeah,
He could
exactly.
never run a sprint, but he was never compared to me.
Yeah.
I
So
used to
that,
run.
yeah. So what I'm saying is that, the biases exist because of the social norms also. We do not put a lot of emphasis on soft skills, sports, arts. We only focus on, like math. I was smiling when you said math because I said, why not history? Why not geography? That we actually, in the recent years, I've started reading some good history books that actually have been eye-opener for me and have, given me a very, very different perspective on the world. While when we were growing, the way history was taught, I could barely pass history, and I hated history as a subject. But now that I have read some of the like phenomenal books, one of the very recent book I read was Prisoners of Geography. I would highly recommend people to read it. That how the history, the all the colonial history and all that shaped the world. I'm sure that all of us would have a different perspective towards what happened and why we are what we are today.
I have another very good example, but maybe a discussion for some other day. And this is related to history. Rajiv, remember, we will talk about this. But coming to biases, why are we such a prisoner of biases about
It serves
ourselves?
their purpose.
Why do we limit ourselves if we get compared to someone who's, and we get compared? I mean, there's no way we cannot fall under that trap. We cannot. And somewhere in life, I don't know anyone who was not told that you're average. ठीक ही हो तुम. You're okay. Like तुम हो तो भी
Yeah,
ठीक है, तुम्हारे
yeah,
जैसे 50,000 लोग और हैं.
yeah,
And
yeah.
I have given this example in an earlier podcast as well, that I was really shocked to read when Walter Isaacson said no to Steve Jobs, that I am not writing a book,
Yes,
like not
yes,
right now.
yeah.
Somewhere in life, someone will make you feel कि ठीक है हो तुम. I mean, there's
Yeah.
nothing special about you. So how do we come out of this? And again, someone
No,
can take it
you
in
see,
a
you have to understand, that the point I'm trying to make is that the biases serve purposes from both sides.
right, exactly.
So the biases will also give you an excuse to hide behind if you do not want to make the effort. So let's not fool ourselves that we are saying that biases only exist one way or by one person. No, it is, you can play the victim card and complain the bias in the system.
Or put in an effort and prove the other person that
You
okay,
don't have to prove to anybody. See, what I'm
exactly.
saying is that
Yeah,
yes,
strong looking for validation.
you do what you want to do, irrespective of this thing. And then yes, if you are there's something that I tell my kids and everybody that I personally don't like if somebody makes a statement that I can't do that.
I can't do that.
I cannot do it. Right? हमसे ना हो
Okay.
पाएगा. So the reason is, I would always want to make the statement that I don't want to do this rather than saying I cannot do this. Because that plays a victim card, that plays a bias that you are, underlying bias that you say. So simply, be bold enough to say, no, this is not my forte. I don't want to do this. That's it. You don't have to give a reason. So that's why I'm
Couldn't
saying
agree
that
more.
the bias, I know. Somebody who makes that statement very often.
Yeah, I know. We both know that you're talking about me and the audience as well, our listeners as well, that yeah, this is my uh, catchphrase. हमसे ना हो पाएगा. Leave me alone. So
The victim card, yes.
yes.
But yes, so the biases serve everybody, and that's why we will not be able to get rid of the biases. Because though whether it is you who claims to be the victim of bias or you claim that, hey, this is a social norm, I'm not biased, this is a social norm. So you're still
Isn't it
hiding
just
behind it.
yeah, exactly. वो दिल के खुश रखने को गाली भी एक ख्याल अच्छा है. Rajiv, one more question that I want to touch upon is, does confirmation bias obstruct or impair critical thinking?
Yeah, of course it does. Because if you are biased, so you are actually falling into a narrative, you're not thinking at all. So there's no even question of critical or objective or thinking. If you're biased and you're actually jumping to conclusions without doing any fact finding, without doing any critical thinking. I would say the other way that critical thinking, objective thinking, and all that will actually help address the biases.
And it can be any kind of bias,
Yeah,
attribute,
anything. So,
gender.
anything, social bias, social norm, religious bias, incorporate behavioral, anything. You pick any example. And we can say, okay, if you start thinking that why is this narrative, is this something that I'm just following in line, like a herd mentality, or I'm just reacting to what everybody is already doing and saying, versus I'm making my own decision. See, the key thing is that you should be the one taking a decision about yourself, not the narrative told by anybody else, not the opinions of anybody else. Yes, you can ride on their opinion, but you should be very conscious that, hey, I like this and I am aligned to this because this is what I think. So therefore, this is my decision. But it should be your conscious decision. Everybody gets married at this age. Everybody has children at this age. Everybody gets so that the social bias has been created. Now, if you are trying to not marry and say, hey, I worry about marriage when I want to marry, I'm not ready. And you'll be so compelled socially and your own mind that something is wrong with me because the narrative is that hey, everybody should get married by this age. Everybody should have a child by this age. So
Yeah.
these are see this is bias. That is what I'm saying. That's a social norm is a certain kind of bias.
Yeah. शादी वो इल्म है जिसमें दो लोग इस तरह रहते हैं कि एक दूसरे को रहने नहीं देते. But we have created those biases.
Sleeping with the enemy. Yeah. So yeah, the critical thinking, objective thinking, will help you address the biases. But let's be very clear about it that if somebody say that I am 100% objective, I have no bias, the person is just either too stupid to even understand what bias is or too arrogant to actually
Accept that fact.
accept it.
Well, Rajiv, that was quite food for thought, and we want our listeners to listen, ponder, engage. Anyone who wants to come to our show, we'll be more than happy to host. Our website is dalailama.com, DHELIELLAMA.com. In the end, all I want to say is that somehow I believe we are the prisoners of our own biases. It's time to break those chains. And I know Rajiv has those beautiful couplets about biases.
Yeah.
Over to you.
I'm running out of my couplets, so I'm trying to force some of them in here, but
this is the app because we are talking about ourselves. We are not talking about what others think of us, but what we think of ourselves.
Yeah. So this was actually it is related, and we can say it applies to that. So जो दावा करते थे दुनिया को पहचानने का हैरान खड़े हैं रुके आई ना आज.
Well, that loosely translates to what Kabir's one of the Doha, बुरा जो देखन में चला, बुरा ना मिला कोई. Joke. It's something like मैंने जब अपने अंदर
I think it was Bulle Shah, not Kabir.
No, this is Kabir का दोहा. Yeah, this is Kabir का दोहा कि बुरा जो देखन में चला, बुरा ना मिला कोई. जब भीतर something like कि जब मैंने अपने अंदर देखा तो मुझसे बुरा
ना पाए.
Right.
Okay. I always thought that this was Bulle
No,
Shah.
we have mugged up this, so this is part of our subconscious mind.
Okay, good. Yeah. So I had written actually originally in English that we have become what we loathe. So then I loosely translated into Hindi. But, yeah.
Thank you so much for listening.
Thank you.